going on, guys? Eric Idison, sales manager here at the Honest Agent team in GG Homes. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most common objections, especially dealing with investor owners and properties that maybe are out of state or tier one, etc. on our list. This is the objection of, yeah, I can't sell it. I'm not going to pay taxes on it. I don't want to pay taxes on it. And look, it's a really valid concern. So this is one of the more difficult objections to handle, especially as a newer agent. You need to be able to really understand what this prospective seller is saying, dissect it, and see if there's a better plan that actually gets them what they want. And so let's talk about how we do that. So number one is they tell you, hey, you know what? I can't sell this place. It's an investment property for me. I'd have to pay too much in taxes. First thing you want to do is agree with them, okay? You want to make them feel that they're heard. You want to be empathetic and understand their concern because it is valid. You say, you know what? Hey, you know, Mr. Seller, I completely agree. I understand, you have this investment property, probably does pretty well for you. And you're thinking, hey, if I sell this thing, I'm going to owe Uncle Sam, quite a bit of money. So where do you go from that? So you agree with them. Secondly, what you want to do is clarify. You would say, hey, look, if taxes weren't an issue, okay, would you sell this thing and what would you be using that money toward? If the answer hopefully would be, yeah, I would sell it and I would use it toward X, Y, and Z, then you started to uncover more and more of the motivation. So maybe they tell you something like this. Well, I would sell it and I'd take that money and I'd put it in the bank. I'd go travel. I'd go whatever it is. You want to understand and unlock really where that money would be going if there is going to be investment dollars. Maybe they'll tell you, hey, no, I wanted to put it into a different asset class. Okay, fantastic. Let's ask a couple more questions. Well, what asset class would you be trying to put into? Would you keep it in real estate? Would you move it into the markets? Would you put it into bonds? Would you be buying precious metals and gold? Like, what is it that you would be, utilizing with this money? Now, let's talk about if they say, hey, I'd buy a different property. The next question you would want to ask is, okay, if you're buying another property, is this next property going to be for a personal residence or would this be for an investment property? Let's say it's an investment property. Fantastic. Mr. Seller, are you familiar with what a 1031 exchange is? Now, we'll go into more depth on a 1031 exchange in another video, but essentially you're going to be exchanging like-kind property in real estate and defer, not eliminate, defer those capital gains taxes on the upside appreciation and gain that these owners have on the original purchase for their investment home. And so that scenario is very doable. You say, hey, look, we have a specialist here that really understands on the 1031 exchanges. As a team, we do a ton of these things. I know they seem a little scary or maybe you haven't heard about them, but what actually is going to be able to happen is, if we're done correctly, what we can do is get you to sell that property, defer those capital gains, and move it into the home that you really want. Because I imagine there might be a better upside or something, more security, less risk in moving it to a different asset. Now they say, hey, I want to move it into a different asset class. A little bit trickier, okay? They might be subject to these capital gains. I'd have them confer with their tax specialist and say, hey, look, here's the deal. I can't guarantee we can eliminate them, but there might be some things that you can do that can limit your tax liability. Let's go ahead and set up an appointment with our senior advisor. Let's walk through the scenario of what that would look like so you actually get the figures. And also we'll get you in touch with a tax professional if you do not have one, so we can discuss really what is our liability if we were to make this type of exchange. And from there, I'd double down onto it and say, hey, why would you take money out of this investment property and move it into something else? Are there any issues with it? I'm trying to unlock reasons why they have pain or what their upside gain is. Okay, so it's a lot of these different clarifying questions. Now, let's talk about other solutions that they can do. So they have the 1031 exchange, maybe they take some tax liability on it, or maybe they are interested in putting money into markets, something that's more passive. Because a big reason people would sell an investment property but they don't want to because of taxes is because they have tenants that they constantly have turning over. There's issues, there's maintenance costs, all these things, and they're getting strapped. They don't have either the time or additional resources to continue improving this home. Therefore, it's probably a good time to sell it. So another solution that you could explore with them is you'd ask them a question like this. Look, I understand you have these tenants or you have this issue that maybe, if there's a better solution, you get out of it. Is that correct? Yes. Got it. Are you familiar with a Delaware Statutory Trust or a DST? Are you familiar with that investment vehicle? Yes, no, maybe. Let's say they don't have any idea. Fantastic. I'm glad I gave you a call today. Well, let's go ahead and review it because it's actually a vehicle where you can take your home, sell it, and then move that additional income and profit, move it into, and the loan amount that's currently there, so the entire balance. We can move it into another investment vehicle, into a fractionalized ownership that's completely hands-off. You can put the money away for a while and collect dividends. And the best part, you get to defer those taxes, and it's a very relatively easy transition because these homes are already pre-purchased by large funds. In fact, let's do some exploration. It might be able to get you a better return than what you're currently getting on your current investment property. Is that something that you want to take a look at to see if that was possible? Yes. So that's the DST option. Now let's talk about cap gains. A lot of people, I think, have this impression that capital gains are this crazy amount of money. It's going to take all their profit, and Uncle Sam's going to run away with it. Here's the deal. What they need to understand first is what is a taxable liability from a sale of a home. So number one, it's whatever you purchase the home for. It's whatever you're going to be able to sell the home for now, minus your original purchase price, plus any improvements that you've done into the home also can be taken out of the tax liability. And by the way, I'm not a tax accountant. Talk to your CPA. Not here to give you tax advice, but this is things that you can do to reduce that tax liability. So let's give you an example. Let's say you bought a home, or you say you can sell a home for $550,000, and in that $550,000, you bought the home originally for $250,000. So there's currently a $300,000 tax liability. Let's say you put in $50,000 into repairs and improvements over the course of the time that you have documented. Well, really, your tax liability now is shaved down to about $250,000. That's quite a bit of money, right? And so in a normal scenario, if you were to tax this on short-term income, yeah, that could be a really high tax liability. But we're talking about long-term gains. These are basically you hold the home longer than 1 year. What's going to end up happening is it's depending on your filing status, these ranges of what you're going to have to pay percentage-wise can go anywhere from 0 to 15 to maybe 20% on average. This is for 2018, and this is subject to change. There's also some other criteria. If you make over a certain amount of money, there might be a couple other additional percentage points added on there. I'm not here to give you that tax advice, but to give you a general idea of what it's going to look like. So in this scenario, let's say that you are a single filer and you have a $250,000 tax liability that we just talked about in the same example. You'd be subject to roughly a 15% capital gains tax. Now, some people might think, oh, that's still crazy, but a lot of people, they might be under the impression that they're going to pay 30, 35, 40% in taxes, because that's a lot of the rhetoric that you hear in talking to these clients. So what you want to do is politely explain to them, hey, look, let's set up an appointment. We can review this, and we can also get an accountant in here to give you an idea of what your actual liability would be if you were to sell this place. Based on 2018 filing and what we expect it to be in 2019 or into the future, if you're watching this video later on, is we're probably going to be somewhere around the range of about 15%, give or take a couple percentage points. And don't quote me, I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not here to give you tax advice. However, we're probably going to be in that range. I want you to understand that. So if that's the case, we're really looking at something around, maybe $30-something thousand in capital gains. And here's the deal. If you have to pay $30,000 in capital gains, great job. You really won on this investment. You got to ask yourself the question now, is holding on to this property because you don't want to pay all these taxes on it for 30 grand, is that the right decision? You got to back it up for a second and ask, okay, if I don't sell this home, what am I missing out on? Or what could I be losing if I don't sell this home? And so you want to be asking these same questions to this prospective seller. You'd say something along the lines of, okay, got it. So in this scenario, it looks like maybe we're around 30,000 in capital gains. Currently, right now, in today's market, right, asset prices are quite high. In fact, we're in 10 years of an upside trend. And the reason for that is money's been very cheap to borrow. Asset prices, both in stocks and housing, seem to be pretty high. There's a good chance, I'd say there's a higher chance that the market either stays flat and goes down a little bit than it actually does have upside appreciation given the current landscape. You'd have this conversation with the seller, say, hey, I don't have a crystal ball, but what happens if we lost $45,000 in your asset price just because the market started to shift downward? If these interest rates continue to jump up, you might lose more money by not selling today than waiting a year because you're worried about these tax gains. And a lot of other investors use social proof here. A lot of investors that I'm working with right now realize this. And so they are okay with taking this small hit on capital gains and maybe move it into a different asset or a DST or 1031. What they're doing is they're saying, hey, look, right now this has been a great property for me, but I think I get better upside in something else. And so right now I could sell it, take a small hit, put it into cash, and then be able to reinvest at a later date. Now, for smart money, and whether it's right or wrong, we can't exactly tell. We don't have a crystal ball, but a lot of smart money is saying, hey, look, let's take it out. Let's pay a little hit now, hold in cash, because if these prices do come down quite a bit, guess what? It's going to be Christmas. And our purchasing power is going to be 5x what it is in today's market. So there's also that opportunity cost of, say, cash if they were to take it out. Now, a lot of these investors maybe aren't doing this as a profession or a business. Maybe they're just here, this is their nest egg, this is their retirement. For some of them, holding onto the property and having cash flow does make the most sense, okay? But for other people, it makes more sense to hold it, cash out, and go have a lifestyle and the freedom and the less responsibility that they really want and go into their golden years, okay? Also, sometimes a 1031 exchange makes a better scenario for them. They might be able to sell a property, we're in San Diego market, sell it in San Diego, move it into another market that has a higher rent to purchase price ratio, or also a higher cap rate, and get a better return by doing a 1031 exchange. Or maybe they're in a property where they have quite a bit of equity, no cash, no liquid cash, they don't want to take out a loan or can't take out a loan, and the home needs work. They can sell that and move it into something that's been either a newer build or something that's just been recently remodeled that's going to have less work with it moving forward. So there's a variety of different reasons. And as someone who's calling or in person meeting with someone that has a tax objection, what you got to do is, number one, agree with them. Secondly, from there, you need to clarify what is it that they would be moving their money into if tax obligations weren't an issue. Is there a real motivation to sell if that's the only thing holding them back? So you want to isolate that objection. And that's the case, then you got to get creative. You got to think about what's really best for this prospective seller based on what their long-term plan is, and also, I guess, their short-term plan. What is their plan in general? Is there a better solution to what they're currently doing? And so those are the types of questions that you want to ask. I hope you guys got something out of this video and understand this process a little bit more. I think when you do, you're going to be able to help add multiple more transactions to your portfolio each year. And also these investors, I think, are going to get a great education on something that might be more beneficial than we're currently doing. So thank you very much.